Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It is Friday. I'll say that again. It is Friday, October 30th. I've got your top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thank you for choosing to be here to get filled in on everything that is impacting you here in Northeast Ohio. We start off first with a national story out of Kentucky. Here's another update on what's going on with the many situations tied to the killing of Breonna Taylor. The Louisville Metro Police Officer who was shot by Kenneth Walker, that was Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, during that raid where she was killed, is now suing Kenneth Walker for his injuries. This is Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly. He said the shooting was, quote, outrageous, intolerable, and offends all accepted standards of decency or morality. Now, remember, Mattingly was not charged in the killing of Breonna Taylor. No officer actually was charged related to the killing of Breonna Taylor. But when those officers came into her apartment that night, Mattingly was shot in the upper thigh and did require surgery for that injury. Mattingly's attorney, Kent Wicker, said this: Sergeant Mattingly was shot and nearly killed by Kenneth Walker. He's entitled to and should use the legal process to seek a remedy for the injury that Walker has caused him. Now, the lawsuit says that Walker intentionally shot Mattingly and acted recklessly in firing his pistol in the direction of the police officers who were serving that warrant at the home of Breonna Taylor. Now, there are questions related to the validity of that warrant, which are being investigated, but those are being investigated at the federal level. Now, Walker, the boyfriend of Breonna Taylor, who again was killed in that raid, claims that he fired in self-defense and didn't know who was coming in the apartment. And he was initially charged in that shooting, but those charges were dismissed in May. His attorney, Steve Romines, said this: one would think that breaking into the apartment, executing his girlfriend, and framing him for a crime in an effort to cover up her murder would be enough for them. Now, remember, again, Mattingly was not charged in the killing of Breonna Taylor. No one was charged. The one officer who was charged, Brett Hankinson, has pleaded not guilty. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment for endangering Breonna Taylor's neighbors because of the manner in which he fired his weapon on that night. He was fired from the Louisville Metro Police Department in June for his actions on that night. We will be following that, as the rest of the nation will be following that, as there are more updates to come. His trial, of course, set for a later date. Bringing things back to Ohio, yesterday Ohio had a shattering record of new COVID-19 cases. That number was 3,590. After that information came out, our 3 News anchor Russ Mitchell had a one-on-one conversation with Governor Mike DeWine talking about the possibility of a future shutdown. Here's what Governor DeWine told Russ Mitchell. He told him that another close down would be devastating in Ohio. I think that's something that we all know. He said that they may have to eventually do it. More people would be unemployed. There'd be a lot more misery. Mental health problems would spike. Kids would no longer be in schools. There's a lot of downside to doing that. That's what Governor DeWine told Russ Mitchell. Now, Russ asked Governor DeWine, who happens to be the co-chair of President Trump's re-election committee, if the election has anything to do with not having a shutdown here in Ohio. Now, the governor said that that was not the case. However, you can imagine the confusion that that would create at this point, because there haven't been provisions put in place for people to vote entirely absentee. We've been operating under the assumption that this election will be happening, that people will be able to vote in person on November 3rd here in Ohio for months and months and months, ever since the debacle of the primary election getting pushed back in March, being pushed months away. Obviously, not something that the state is prepared to handle here in Ohio. But DeWine did say that orders for a partial close down could come after the election and that he wouldn't rule anything out. Now, you can see that full conversation with Governor Mike DeWine and our Russ Mitchell on WKYC.com, our WKYC app, also on our WKYC YouTube pages. Now, as COVID-19 cases continue to spike, South High School in Willoughby is closed today because of multiple COVID-19 cases. This is in the Willoughby East Lake School District. This decision was made after consulting with the Lake County General Health District. So the high school will be closed today, going to virtual learning, and a date for reopening is not yet known at this time. Now, earlier this month, the Willoughby East Lake School District had to close all of its school buildings and suspend extracurricular activities because of several students and teachers being exposed to COVID-19. Also today, the Willoughby Middle School is closed because of multiple staff absences because people are being required to quarantine right now. Now, the district says it hopes to reopen the middle school on Monday, but again, no date set for the reopening of the high school in terms of in-person schooling right now. Now, as the election day gets closer and closer, we're hearing from more and more people about their feelings about the upcoming election. And it turns out President Donald Trump seems to have a pretty strong grip on the rap community. Lil Wayne tweeted out a picture with President Donald Trump today saying that they had a great meeting. And then he was talking about what the president calls the Platinum Plan. This plan, which you can find on the president's campaign website, lays out what the president says he is promising Black Americans if reelected over the next 4 years. It talks about signing the First Step Act as part of criminal justice reform, addressing the wage gap, access to education, and other things. So Lil Wayne tweeted today, besides what he's done so far with criminal reform, the Platinum Plan is going to give the community real ownership. He listened to what we had to say today and assured he will and can get it done. Now, when I talk about the president having a seemingly stronghold on the rap community, it was just last week that 50 Cent tweeted what seemed like support for President Trump, saying that he didn't want to see his taxes raised if former Vice President Joe Biden were to be elected. Remember, Joe Biden has talked about a tax plan where he says taxes would not be raised on Americans who make less than $400,000 a year, but taxes would be raised if you make more than $400,000 a year. 50 Cent apparently falling into that category as a very successful rapper. Well, 50 Cent later backtracked saying that he never liked him, referring to President Donald Trump, and then tweeted today a screenshot of an article about Lil Wayne and his post about the president today and saying, "Oh no, Wayne, I would have never took this picture." Now, another prominent rapper that has shown his support for President Donald Trump in varying degrees over the past several years has been Kanye West. However, Kanye West lodged his own bid to try and run for the presidency. Now, he didn't make it on the ballot in a lot of states, but is still saying that he wants to move forward as a write-in candidate. So you can call that support for the president. You can call it not support for the president when he's actually trying to run for the presidency himself. I don't really know what camp that falls in, but he has been at least vocally supportive of the president in the past. Here in Akron, just yesterday, Senator Kamala Harris, who is the Democratic vice presidential candidate, her husband Doug Emhoff was here, and he was talking about how he really dislikes the president's attacks on Kamala Harris. He made that stop in Akron yesterday. Now, following the vice presidential debate, the president criticized Harris. He called her nasty and a monster. Well, Emhoff told 3 News that clearly, as a husband, he doesn't like that, but he says it's a distraction and it takes away from talking about more important conversations. He says that the presidential campaign knows that they failed and that they got us into this mess, talking about the situation the Americans are certainly in right now with COVID-19 and so forth. And Emhoff says they don't have a plan to get us out. So what are they left with? They're left with baseless attacks, talking about those personal attacks, the name calling coming from the president against Senator Kamala Harris and the Democratic candidate Joe Biden. Now, during the visit here in Akron, he also talked about divisiveness and how he feels that's turned off voters. He says that people are sick of the division and they like the unifying message that comes from Harris and Biden. Now, while he was here, he was throwing a little bit of shade with his wardrobe choice. He was wearing a shirt that said, "It's a good year to vote." Obviously, this was referencing earlier this year when President Donald Trump called to boycott Goodyear, which is based in Akron, over politics, supposedly banning political speech in the workplace. There was a lot of back and forth about whether that was a corporate slide at issue, talking about not having political expression on speech, but talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, the Blue Lives Matter movement, etc. So Emhoff throwing a little bit of shade there wearing that shirt. Now here in Ohio, many polls say that Ohio is still a toss-up. Ohio is historically very important in a presidential election. No president has won the presidency without Ohio since 1960. Every other time in modern history, in order to get the presidency, somebody has also won the state of Ohio. So we are a very important state. We'll obviously be watching that very closely. We'll be giving you updates up to the minute on Election Day. In 2016, President Donald Trump carried Ohio by 8 points over former Secretary of State and then Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. Now, if elected, Kamala Harris would become the nation's first female, first Black, and first Asian American vice president. Here is a reminder for you, just 4 days out from the election, officials are saying at this point, you need to drop your absentee ballot off if you are sending in an absentee ballot at your county board of elections, at an official ballot drop box. At this point, it is not recommended that you mail that ballot, even though you can technically have your ballot postmarked by November 2nd here in Ohio. Experts are saying do not do that. Take your ballot to your county board of elections if you are voting with an absentee ballot this year. One more thing to let you know, here's some great news for a local person who has done a lot of good here in the Northeast Ohio community. Matt Kaulig has been named a finalist for the 2020 NASCAR Philanthropy Award. He's the owner of Kaulig Racing and Kaulig Charitable Giving Program, so he's been nominated for the 2020 Comcast Community Champion of the Year Award. He's one of 3 finalists. He's facing off against Clay Campbell of Martinsville Speedway, the president there, and the Campbell Family Foundation, and also Bubba Wallace. He's the NASCAR Cup Series driver at Richard Petty Motorsports, and also the Live to Be Different Foundation is his organization. Kaulig, an Ohio native, he graduated from the University of Akron. That's where he met his wife, Lisa, and in 2018, he and Lisa founded Kaulig Charitable Giving Programs, and that focuses on the well-being of children and families. So the organizations that they support here in Northeast Ohio are Akron Children's Hospital, the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Cleveland, and Breakthrough Schools. So here is why this is a very big deal for the Northeast Ohio area. Comcast will award $60,000 to the winner's affiliated charity and $30,000 to each of the 2 remaining finalists. So no matter how you slice it, Kaulig is getting some money for the Kaulig Charitable Giving Program. So those organizations here in Northeast Ohio will definitely benefit. Of course, we wish him the best in the competition. It would be great if he's able to bring home that award and bring home that greatness here to Northeast Ohio. So much greatness, so much that he's already brought to us here. So the winner will be announced with the NASCAR Championship weekend next month. That is happening in Phoenix. Between now and then, we are sending our best wishes and good luck to Matt Kaulig and his charity in that competition. That's it for your 3 News Now early update for Friday, October 30th. I'll be back here at 3 p.m. as soon as we get those new numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health and the rest of your top stories on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Everyone, in the meantime, enjoy your afternoon, stay safe and be well, and I'll see you back here shortly. I'm Stephanie Haney.